Welcome, everyone. I'm Sue Barber, author, former IT director for a Fortune 500 company, turned executive coach, and this is the Visibility Factor podcast, where we explore how to raise your visibility and play bigger at work and in life. We'll explore key topics and welcome guests that help you shift your thinking about yourself so you can see new possibilities for your leadership. I'm on a mission to create a visibility movement for leaders to show their value and be seen for their true talent. Are you ready to take the next step towards a higher level of visibility for yourself? Let's go. Today's episode of the Visibility Factor podcast is brought to you by Amplify You, the ultimate program designed to unleash your full potential and amplify your success. Imagine having a personal coach cheering you on, guiding you through a journey of self-discovery, and helping you break free from those limiting beliefs that have been holding you back. That's exactly what Amplify You is all about. Whether you're a leader now or aspiring to be one, this program is your ticket to a more confident, empowered you. It's like having a supportive friend in your corner encouraging you to dream big. It's about having the career success that you want and creating a life you truly deserve. Amplify You offers a unique experience to help you build the confidence to tackle any challenge life throws your way. If you're interested in learning more about the program, please visit susanmbarber.com and click on the menu item Programs. Are you ready to transform your life and your career? Let's make it happen. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Visibility Factor podcast. This is Sue Barber, your host. I am so excited today to bring you my guest, Luis Velasquez. He is an author of a new book that has recently come out that he is going to share a lot of information about called Ordinary Resilience. He has an amazing story that I know you're going to be very inspired by. And he's also an executive coach who's worked with some amazing companies that you will definitely know the names of. So welcome to the show, Luis. So excited to have you here.
Sue, I am really thankful for you having me.
Excellent. Well, I'd love to have you do a little bit of an introduction of yourself besides what I shared and tell everybody what you've been doing.
All right. So let's see, how can I start? I am passionate about resilience. I am passionate about, helping people adapt and thrive. I'm originally from Guatemala, Central America. I've been an executive coach for almost 15 years now. And this is my third act. Originally, I was a professor of fungal genetics at Michigan State University. And then I became an entrepreneur. And in the process, I learned a few things. And then I became an executive coach. And that's what I do now.
Wow. Well, you and I talked before, and I would love to have you share a bit of your story and how resilience became such an important part of your life, because you really had to leverage your own resilience in so many ways. So wherever you'd like to start to share with people, I think it would just help them have a good context of why this book came to life for you.
Got it. So a little bit of background about myself. I grew up in Guatemala, Central America, in the 80s, which makes me really old for some standards. At a time where there was a lot of political violence back in Guatemala. If you remember the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union, the battles for that war happened in Latin America. So my country was hit with that political violence pretty hard. In addition to that, I grew up in extreme poverty. And, when they say third floor, that's my house didn't have a floor at the very beginning. But I had a really happy childhood. It was amazing. We were always playing. We were always happy. Sometimes we didn't have much to eat, but we were happy. And the reality is that for me, that component was normal. That's who I was. I thought that the world lived the way we lived. So didn't have anything else to think about. And when the war ended, there was a program that the United States established that was called the Scholarships for Peace. And the idea was to bring, people from those areas that were affected by violence and then give them education, teach them English, and then send them back and become beacons of change. And that's how I ended up coming to the United States. I got a Associate of Science degree in food science in a community college in California, and learn English. And then I went back, to complete my commitment of returning and becoming a beacon of change. But what that did to me, Sue, when I came, I realized that the world wasn't just a little bubble where I live, but it was so much bigger. And when I came, I realized that there was so many opportunities, so much that I could do. That when I came back, I decided I need to go back. I need to figure out how can I go back. And obviously, I couldn't afford it, so I started looking for other types of scholarship, and I got a scholarship to attend university in Florida. I went to Florida A&M University. Florida A&M University is a traditionally African American university. And the reason why I went there is because I wanted to come in the spring. And the only way, and most other colleges that I applied only take international students in the fall. But Florida A&M, I could come in the spring. So I came. And I started, I wanted to become a farmer. That was my dream. I wanted to be a farmer. So I studied horticulture. And in the process, I took couple of science classes, and I love science. So then I decided to finish my undergraduate, did a master's, and then I got recruited by a couple of universities, including Michigan State. I did a PhD in molecular biology and plant pathology. Then I didn't want to be a farmer anymore, but I wanted to be a professor. So I became a professor of fungal genetics at Michigan State University. And in the process, I thought, okay, everything is done. I have it. I'll be simply publish a few papers and get some grants, and I have it all made. And it was very interesting that life throws balls at you. Life, you don't know what's coming around the corner. And I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. When I came back from the brain tumor, the radiation and the surgery and all of that stuff, I couldn't go back to be a professor anymore. I had some cognition issues. So I had to reinvent myself. Decided to do something else. I wanted to do, maybe I considered several things, including, being a greeter at Walmart and being a car salesman, many things, And then I realized that one of the big lessons that I think I learned is that the world doesn't belong to the people that know the most, but to the people who learn the fastest. To your question, why did I choose resilience as the theme of my book, or a little bit of my background? And I think that a lot of times, people will tell me, "Oh my gosh, you have done so much, you have survived so much, you're so resilient." And to me, it's like I haven't done anything different. I haven't put additional effort on what I do. It just came natural to me. And a little bit of more background. My dad had a horrible accident when he was a truck driver, and I think that I was in junior high, and he had a horrible accident. And then when he came back from the accident, he made that declaration, and he said, "I am going to build a house, and I'm going to build a business, and I'm going to send you to university, and you're going to do this, and we're going to do that." And my mom and I were like, "How are you going to do that? You couldn't do it when you were healthy." Oh, he did. He actually did. And he became a very successful businessman in my hometown. So I got that inspiration when I was in my rock bottom component of that. And when I share my story, and people will tell me, "You're so resilient, you're doing this, you're doing that." So what I started to do is I started to, journal. And I wanted to journal and just to understand my dad experience and my experience. Why were we able to survive and to thrive? Not in spite of the issues that we had, but because of the issues that we have. And that has been a life journey for me.
I mean, very inspirational, all the things that you went through, and just to see the possibilities that you created for yourself, right? In terms of finding a way to come to the United States, to be a part of this program, to take, inspiration back to where you came from, and everybody could see what you'd done and what you learned, and then just continuing to build on that. I mean, the way you started that story, I bet no one expected you to be a PhD or a professor or any of those things, and you have made all of that happen. So I think you are someone who just really shows what the definition of possibilities is, really, because it's just mindset. And I think, what you just talked about with you and your dad, it's a mindset thing, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen, even though everyone might say, that's crazy. How could you possibly do that? So I think, mindset is such a big thing that so many people have come back from accidents and issues and challenges in their lives, and they just had to keep going, right? So it's really impressive what you have done. I would love to hear a little bit more about who your reader is. Who do you think that your reader is for your book?
So it's funny, so when I started writing the book, when I actually decided to write a book, the first decision that I made is what type of book I didn't want to write. And I didn't want to write a textbook. I didn't want to write a book all about me, just autobiography. And I didn't want to write a book that had a beginning and an end. I wanted someone to open the book and just get something out of there from wherever it was. So and the reader I thought is anyone that can actually want to get better at something. Anyone that is in a situation that they don't like to be in. Anyone who wants to prevent to be in a situation that they want to be in. So I think that what I wanted to do is to write this book that anyone that can pick it up can learn something and do something with the information given there.
Yeah, I mean, it just speaks to your growth mindset in general, right? That's how you have always been. And I think for people who want to grow and change, this is a great opportunity for them to do that. So talk a little bit about, I know you have a framework that you use with people. I'd love to hear more about that.
In the book, I don't offer solutions. There are no solutions there. What I try to offer is, to your point, is a framework that works for me. And it also has worked for other people that I have coached. And they have two components. One is the drivers, and the other one are the pillars. So the drivers are three things: commitment, persistence, and optimism. So the way we were talking about earlier about mindset, and I think that mindset for me is the desire to do something, the desire to get better, but we still need to make a decision. And the decision is the commitment. And I use commitment because commitment is more of it has a emotional attachment to that rather than decision. I can decide to get better, but that is my head talking. But if I say I'm committed to do better, that is my head and my heart talking. So commitment is number one. The second one is persistence. And, the reality is that life is hard. So, life is really, really hard sometimes. And sometimes we're up and down. And I think that, what is that adagio? It's like everything that is worth is not easy. And I think that, being persistent, it allows to do the hard work and to go through the hard times, understanding and making sure that our commitment is being fulfilled. And finally, the optimism. And the optimism for me is the idea that whatever situation I am having right now is only temporary. The optimist in me is like, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So the way I put this formula is commitment plus persistence times optimism. And the way I put it times optimism is because if there is no optimism, there is no resilience. So those are the drivers. The pillars of resilience are very easy. Number one is embrace your challenge, and I call it embrace the suck. But I have a mantra behind that is, what am I going to do about this? So I remember, when we're kids, I would tell my dad anything, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Oh, I don't like this. And he will say, well, what are you going to do about this? Because the minute I ask myself that question, then I start thinking about the possibilities. The second pillar is facing your fears. Looking back into my life and the life of my dad, and a lot of times, being fearful is hard. Sometimes it impedes us to moving forward. And my mantra for that is, I don't seek to be fearless, but to fear less. The minute I fear less, then I am giving myself permission to, to try to do it, to do something about that. So that's number 2. Number 3 is relationships. And, I'm looking back in my, my life, all the pivotal moments have been catalyzed by someone in my life. Somebody has challenged me, someone gave me an opportunity, someone has pushed me forward. So there is a lot of relationship component on who we are. And the mantra that I have for that one is, find someone that already solved your problem. A lot of times we spend a lot of time trying to solve problems when we should be mimicking solutions. So that's number 3. Number 4 is find your inner strength. And I think that the key here is that sometimes we minimize the power that we have within ourselves. And I think it's a disservice for ourselves is to think that we cannot do more than we actually can. And the key here is to challenge ourselves. The one thing that I realize a lot of times is that we easily confuse pain with discomfort. I don't want to do that because it's painful. No, it's not painful. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to talk to my boss because it's painful. No, it's not painful. It's uncomfortable. And I think that if we accept the fact that we can do more than we believe that we can, we will. And the final pillar of resilience is finding purpose. Because I believe that when we do things because there is something bigger than ourselves, we can do more. So the 5 pillars are, embrace your challenge, embrace the suck. Number 2 is face your fears. Number 3 is build relationships, find your inner strength, and finally, find your purpose.
What I love about those is the mantras that go with each one. I think it helps people to remember them. And also, it's almost like a call to action, right? It's that call to action that keeps you going when you might feel this is hard. I'm not motivated. Nobody's supporting me. Whatever the messaging is that you're giving to yourselves, I think it's easy to then pick yourself up and start to use that mantra to keep going.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the beauty of the mantras is that it's, to your point, it's a call to action.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So how are you using some of the things from your book? Are you using those with clients? How are you seeing some differences in your clients because of what you've learned or what you're doing in the book?
So I'm a coach, and what the book helped me is to clarify the way I coach and the way my philosophy of coaching. And if I could put it in one sentence, which also is not only my philosophy of coaching, but also the big message of the book is the following. To act differently, I need to think differently. To think differently, I need to see differently. And that's what I do with my clients, is I help them to unlock the things that sometimes we don't see because they don't look for the silver lining behind things, so they don't see the other possibilities. A lot of times we think that things are black and white, and there are so many other different ways of looking at things. I have found myself coaching people that they feel that they have no hope or they have no option, and this is the way it is. I have no options here. So what I help them is to unlock the possibilities. Now the framework is for me to take action when I'm coaching them. It's not about, hey, here is a framework, use it, because they might not be needing everything. And that is the beauty of resilience, is that it's a process of adaptation, and you might not need everything at one point, but you need something. So what I do is I help them. And when they're ready to look at this from a framework perspective, then I offer it to them.
Yeah, I love that, because I always say you got to meet people wherever they are, right? Whenever you start to coach someone, right, they could be at different places and they may not even know, what to even articulate to you as the coach, right, to help them. But I think, years and years of practice, like you and I have both had, helps allow those conversations to go to the right place for them and help them really start to see what's possible, start to believe in themselves when they probably don't, and start to see new ways of looking at themselves as a leader, and what they could do for their teams or their companies. I'm just curious from a leadership perspective, what do you think the biggest challenges are that leaders are facing right now?
I think that what I have helped my clients the most, and perhaps that is pointing out to what a lot of people are actually feeling, is this conflict within themselves between being authentic and being able to take risk. And here's what I mean by that. A lot of times, a lot of coaches, and I, me included, I used to give people, personality tests. You take this personality test. And then I realized that a lot of the leaders that I coach use the personality test to justify the way they are. When the reality is that resilience for me is being flexible and being adaptable. And I think that a lot of times, what I realize is that a lot of times, people confuse what they do with who they are. So the challenge that I've seen across most of the people that I coach is trying to understand and trying to merge or find the intersection between who they are and they want to go.
It's like they just take their job and that becomes their identity.
Yes.
And then they have such a hard time. I just wrote something and did a podcast on this topic recently, but it's about when the situation changes, then they have a really hard time letting go of that identity because it's not true anymore. So I'm curious what you do to help people move past that situation then.
This is very, very recent. Just a couple of days ago, I had a leader. I was coaching this individual, and he's being perceived as a driver. He drives people, and he's very results oriented. And as a result, people are feeling that he is too aggressive and too pusher, and to call him a slave driver. And I was talking to him, and we were, trying to figure out, why does he do that, and what drives him to do that? In the process, I asked him a question: what are the 3 things that you believe got you where you are today? What are the 3 things that you do that got you where you are today? We were talking, and then he said, I'm an authentic person. I am authentic. That's who I am. I'm true to myself. And I said, okay. And he said, I am very helpful. I want to help people. This is who I am. I am authentic. I am helpful. I am curious. I am inquisitive. I am approachable. He gave me a bunch of things. I said, let's narrow it down to 3. Who are you? And he said, well, I am approachable. I am helpful. And I am inquisitive. And I said, so that's who you are. So now that's who you need to be when you talk to people. So adopt your identity, adopt who you are. And that will change the conversation. Because if you say, I want to help you, I am inquisitive, I'm curious. So when you adopt who you truly are, then you're not pretending to be, or you're not just doing things to check the box. Because that's what he was doing, just checking the box. So to your question is, I think that a lot of times, we confuse what we need to do with who we are. So what I help my clients is to embrace who they are and use their authenticity and their identity for many things.
I love all that because I think in the world we're in today, right, there's a whole host of people just in comparison mode, right, where they are trying to be like everybody else because they're trying to fit in, or they're trying to, not stand out too much, right? They may be hesitant to stand out and be visible, and the things that I talk about. And I think what I've been trying to help them see is that your uniqueness, being unique, is actually a gift, right? Your experiences, your beliefs, the things that you have to offer are the things that are going to make you stand out. So I think that's the part that people miss, right? And social media drives a lot of that, right? Where everybody's trying to get the number of likes and followers and all that kind of stuff, which at the end of the day, doesn't mean a whole lot. But it's what people are thinking they need to do. And in the world of business, I think it's trying to, almost fit in too much, where you don't feel like you can stand out. You don't feel like you can be yourself because that's not appropriate for the culture, or that's not what my manager values. So I think that's where the challenge can be too, is what are they seeing and internalizing as the story that they are now living with? And I definitely did that myself. So I was thinking I needed to be a certain way, and I probably didn't, but I told myself a story that that's what they wanted me to be. So I think that's very common, just exactly as you described.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm looking at the book that you have in there, the visibility factor, and I think that to be visible, is to be authentic, is to express your authenticity in a way that builds and adds value. But that is only one component of that, and the other two components that I think that is the idea of being adaptable. I am my authenticity is manageable depending on where I need to be and what I need to do. A lot of times, I say, I am from the East Coast, therefore this is the way I am. And that you're not being adaptable. And the other one is, I think, there is a communication, because you can be authentic, you can be adaptable, but if nobody notices, it doesn't matter. So by the way, I got that little that framework that I adopted, that framework from your book, when I read it a few years ago. So, and I use it. You need to be authentic, but you need to be adaptable. But most importantly, you need to communicate people as well. And that is part of being resilient. Resilience for me is to adapting. It's a process of adaptation. And you adapt how you shop. You adapt how you shop without losing your identity, and you adapt how you communicate depending on who you're communicating with.
Yeah, I love all of that. Yeah, we definitely have crossover between what we're talking about with leaders and how we can help them really grow and be someone that they're proud of, right? So what are you hoping will change because of your book?
I think that, for me is if anybody can read the book, and what I hope that they can see and they can get from that is only one thing, is that they can unlock options within themselves. That's number one. And the other one, I think that is even bigger than that, is that to come to the realization that we don't need anything else to take the first step. That we already have everything that we need to take the first step. And sometimes that first step is just making a decision, making a commitment to get better at something. And a lot of times, that's another component. When I get this, when I get that, when I get the promotion, when I moved here, when I got a bigger car, that takes away the place where we are, and where we have the most impact is in the present moment.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? It's knowing that you have everything you need inside of you, right? And trusting yourself, and that you'll make the right decisions, and that the external material things aren't the most important, right? It's about things that you have in your pillars, like relationships and the things that you have in your life. And are you taking advantage of those moments where you can do something? I always say you can make a choice, right? You can choose what direction you want to go with it. And for you, and throughout your whole life, right? You made choices. Your father made choices. And all of those things have now really created a legacy for both of you in so many ways of what life can be if you choose it.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that the biggest gift that life has given us, God, life, or whatever higher being you believe exists, is the power of choice. I think that what I hope that the book will unlock is that you have more choices than you think you do. And it is very interesting. Is that I have a culture of people that believe that they have no choice, that this is the way it is, and you should see their faces when they realize that they have a choice. They can move forward. And by the way, I tell them, not doing anything is a choice. Not doing absolutely anything, that's a choice. And that's what you want to do. No, I want to do something. Then we start unlocking possibilities, and things move forward. So the key here, is to make sure that when we think that we don't have a choice, we do. We just need to look for them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So great. So everybody, please check out his book. It's out everywhere you can find books online. And he's doing a lot of podcasts and a lot of live events that you can hear from him even more beyond what we shared today. But I'd like to transition us into 4 questions that I ask every guest on the show. So I call them the Rise Up and Be Visible Quick Tips. The first one, the question is, what is visibility to you and why did you answer that way?
For me, I think that visibility is being helpful, adding value to people, elevating people. The best way to advocate for yourself is when you advocate for somebody else. And I think that visibility is not about, look at me and having a bigger voice, but rather is just adding value. And the minute you add value, people will notice.
Yes, 100%. What are you doing to be visible? I might have just given that away a little bit with what I just shared about you, but are there other things that you're doing to be visible out in the world?
I think that what I'm doing right now is combating the idea, a self-imposed, a self-limiting belief that I put to myself on is the idea that I'm not good enough to show up in the world. And here, what we're doing right now is my attempt. Is one of my attempts to actually take that courage and be open in the world. For a long time, I just struggled with LinkedIn and what is the word? Self-promotion. I never thought about it. And then going back, when I started writing the book, I realized that it's not about promoting myself. It's about bringing a message that will help other individuals. And that framework has helped me, to show up there. And it doesn't matter if my hair is messed up or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
So what I'm working on right now is to embrace my gift, if I call it my gift, and share it.
I've been in the same place, and I just gave that advice to someone else last night at a speaking event. I was like, you have a great message and service that you want people to take advantage of, but they won't know about it if you don't talk about it, right? You're not out there talking about it. So great advice. What is the best leadership or career advice you've ever received?
2 things. Raise the bar. You can do more. You can aim higher. The growth happens in the journey, not in the destination. That's number 1. And number 2, I think that is take care of your relationships. I think that, a lot of times we believe that relationships happen and they don't happen unless you make them happen. That's number 1. And number two, I think that making sure that the relationships have a purpose. I wrote an article for HBR. Well, actually, it was my first article on HBR. Is the 5 relationships that you should have to be successful at work. And number 1 is, having a mentor, of course, Then having a mentee, because the best way to get good at something is teaching it to somebody else. Having a partner. And what I mean by partner is not just a friend, but somebody that can elevate you and you can elevate them. But it's actually a commitment you make to each other. It's a partnership. The other one is the competitor. Not necessarily to have what they have, but you look at the competitor as a potential partner and see that what else can you do as a result of that. And finally, the sponsor. I think that, we could not get anywhere if we don't have people that believe in us. And the idea that, that we need to have a sponsor, this is proven all over. People get higher in the organizations if they have a sponsor. So we need to look for one. So my advice is, take care of your relationships.
I love that. And last question, what is a book that you would recommend to the audience?
Well, besides my book, Ordinary.
Of course, your book will be listed in the notes for sure. But any other books that you are inspired by?
I think that, let me put it this way. The book that I have read the most times, I'm a reader. I love to read. And I think that the book that has make a big difference in my life is a children's book. It's by Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist. And that's the only book that's the book that I also buy in bulk. So I go to a used bookstore and I see 2-3 copies. I buy them all because I give them all the time. And I think that the biggest lesson that I have gotten from that book is that when you want something so hard, the universe will conspire to give it to you. The only thing that we need to do is to read the signs. And I am always looking for signs. I am always looking for, is this hard or is this easy? Is this, maybe that's if it is too hard, maybe it's the universe is telling you shouldn't be doing this.
Well, interestingly enough, you are the second guest in the last 2 episodes who's brought up that book. So I think it's telling me I need to go back and read it again because it's been a while since I've read it. So I was really excited to hear about it. And now you've said it again. So maybe that's my sign to go back and read it. And for anyone in the audience who hasn't read it, it really is a pretty quick read. And it's great and very inspiring, I think, to see, what's possible for sure. So how can people get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more about the book, learn more about you?
Well, the book is, you can look at it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or anywhere you buy your books online. You can learn about me by going to my LinkedIn profile. I hope that you can include that link in the notes. Or my website. Website is velascoaching.com. I also have a landing page for the book where there is, more information about the book and the podcast that I've been on, etc. And I hope that you can actually add that. I respond to every single email, every single, request that I get. And I would love to hear,
That's amazing. Yes. Well, I know a lot of people reach out, when they hear from guests. So please take advantage. I hope you can hear in today's conversation just how much passion he has for this topic and for leadership and just the amazing story that you've had. And I'm so very glad that you came through all of those challenges and really created something amazing. You have a great platform around resilience now that so many people can learn from and grow from. So it's really amazing.
You have created an amazing platform as well, and the work that you do is helping a lot of people. And I'm so grateful that I can partner with you on this.
Yes, me too. Well, thanks so much for being here. And I will make sure all of the links to everything are in the notes. And if you have a link to that article, I think that would be also great to include in the notes as well, because I would like to go read it myself now after hearing you talk about it. Thanks. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining today on the Visibility Factor podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening to the Visibility Factor podcast. Remember that visibility starts with small steps that are intentional and consistent each day. Be bold, be visible, be the leader you were meant to be. Find us and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, which are highlighted in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Visibility Factor podcast.